because when we were introduced to this, and keep in mind that Patty and I had no understanding, not even ever hearing the word blockchain prior to mid-February of this year. So I want to paint that picture to you because today we feel like we know a lot about it. And we feel that our task right now is, and we certainly feel like we're on a mission. Our mission is to get this messaging out to the globe, to the masses of people. Why? Because average, ordinary people did not have opportunity like some people have had on the face of this planet over the course of the last several decades. And we believe that what's going on right now with Connect United will change the game for the masses. Back in February, again, we didn't know what any of this was, but we figured out real quick we had to come to understand why the World Economic Forum said that $867 trillion worth of global business is about to be disrupted by blockchain technology because it's growing faster than the internet. So if you don't know what blockchain technology is, we've kind of simplified it so the masses can understand it in layman's terms. So I'm going to explain it to you. Just think for a second how much software exists on planet Earth. How many of you have one of these? How many of you have one of these? A cell phone. How many of you have a laptop computer? How many of you have a desktop computer? How many people live on planet Earth? 8.4 billion people. So if you think about how much software exists, probably billions and billions of software, let alone how much exists in the cloud. Multiply that tenfold, 100-fold over. And so think about several of these softwares communicating with each other, looking at specific tasks and functions, looking to validate information or even discredit information. And so you can have software that's located in Budapest, in Milan, in Istanbul, in Taipei, in Charlotte, North Carolina, in Buenos Aires, in Mexico City, in Paris, France. All of these softwares can be interfacing. They can number into the hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, even millions of these softwares can be interfacing. And so we have total decentralization going on because it's happening outside of any governmental control. And so when they figure out something or when they conclude what they're looking for, they basically stamp it into a block of information. And then they'll go on to the next thing and do that same thing again and stamp another block and attach it to the previous block. And then they'll do it again and stamp another block and attach it to the previous block over and over and over again, essentially making a chain of these blocks of information. That's where the term blockchain comes from. Pretty simple to understand when it's explained like that. But here's what most people don't understand. There's total decentralization going on here. It's not under any governmental control. And so all of this creates an immutable ledger. They're creating an immutable ledger, a ledger that can never, ever be changed. And because of that, it allows for smart contracts to be conducted peer-to-peer, person-to-person, globally, without a bank. This is the direction that the world is going in right now, everybody. It became very apparent to Patty and I. We were like, holy smokes, we've been playing small for so long. You're going to hear from one of our special guests here tonight who's made crazy amount of income utilizing this technology. Why? Because he was ahead of the curve. What you're being introduced to tonight, you're ahead of the curve because very few people on the planet understand what we just told you. And yet you have BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, all these institutional monies buying up Ethereum and other cryptos at the rate of $100 million per day. When institutional money starts doing it, it's a sign, guys. They know something. They know something is about to happen. And so we know it just as well. We know something is about to happen. We know that the World Economic Forum said what they said because blockchain is real and it's growing fast. And so if it is growing faster than the internet grew in 1996, let's rewind the clock for a second. How many of you in 1996 had an opportunity to take advantage of the explosive growth of the technology back then? You see, there were a bunch of nerds, and I don't say that derogatorily speaking. They actually pride themselves in calling themselves nerds, believe it or not. But they were working on a technology. And they were saying, if we master this technology, We'll master a way for people to share information globally. And then there were people on the sidelines looking at these people developing a technology. And one of them said, man, if they accomplish that, I'm going to use their technology and I'm going to make a way where people can actually do transactions peer to peer, person to person. Another guy said, if they accomplish that, I'm going to sell people things using their technology. And in 1994, Elon Musk created PayPal. And in 1996, Jeff Bezos created Amazon. Well, how many of you had the opportunity to participate in those types of endeavors? How many of you saw what was going on back there and had the privilege or the benefit of being in their presence, or at least hearing them saying, I've got something going on, join me? Even if you think of Jeff Bezos and the creation of Amazon, do you know how many people he solicited to actually contribute and invest in his idea? A lot. You know how many people took him up on it? 20. That's it. 3 of them were family members. His mother, his brother Mark, his sister Christina. All of them contributed like 10 grand. You know what that 10 grand investment is worth today? $1.3 billion. You see, they were ahead of the curve. I didn't have an opportunity to participate in something like that, nor did Patty, nor did most of us on this Zoom conference right now. We have an opportunity to participate in something that can possibly be even more explosive than that. Because what we're doing as a community right now has never been done before, nor do I think it's ever going to be done in the future. You see, we're taking real world projects. Projects on the blockchain are like companies, right? They provide a good or a service. We're taking projects that are providing real world utility goods and services to the masses, fulfilling what they're already doing and not getting rewarded for, and we're going to reward them. So before I turn it back over to Patty and Billy, I want to explain something about this reward process, because if you get this, we welcome your participation. How many of you are familiar with Uber and Lyft? All of you are. And how do they function and how do they operate? You see, Uber doesn't own a single car. What they do is they tell people just like you, just like me, hey, if you let us use your property, your car, we'll reward you. We'll pay you. That's how they function and that's how they operate. They use other people's property. Airbnb, VRBO is another great example of big giant corporations that use other people's property to benefit. They don't own homes or condos. They say to people, hey, if you let us use your property, we'll reward you. We'll pay you. The blockchain does not own the software, ladies and gentlemen. People do, just like you and I. And they say to us, hey, if you let us use your property, your software, we'll reward you. And they reward us in the currency of the way the world is moving into, and that's cryptocurrency. If you think for 1 second that the central banking system is going to last, it's not going to last. We already see signs and evidence of its collapse. Inflation is a very good one. And when you start seeing countries like El Salvador move away from their fiat currency in its entirety and pick up Bitcoin as their major currency, that's a sign. And they're one of the first countries that are doing it. Many more will follow suit. And what you'll find is that the countries that do that, they'll always have sustainable value in their currency. Why? Because it's created by people around the globe, not just one centralized government. So that's a quick understanding and a quick explanation of what blockchain really is.